going on, everybody? It's Geoff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal, and I'm joined as always by Sean Reider. We are going to cover the bases on a busy week in November for all things Lobo sports. A rare busy kind of late November week. Usually it's just sort of rolling along through some preseason non-conference games in hoops that aren't all that important, some end of the season conference games in football that usually at this time of year aren't that important. And we also have some AD news, as in there is a new athletic director at the University of New Mexico as of a couple days ago. So we got a lot of ground to cover. We're counting on you guys to send us your questions, your comments, and all that good stuff. We are going to start as we have all fall, since this is the final week of the football season, the regular season. We'll start with some Lobo football. We usually do these on Mondays after the coach's press conference, of course. But we will start there with Sean. Lobo football goes to Hawaii this week. A lot on the line, as in bowl eligibility. Who would have saw that coming? Obviously, I didn't. A lot of people probably didn't. So Lobos are 2.5-point favorites going on the road to Hawaii. The islands always create unique issues. Sometimes it's a little overblown how hard it is to go and play there. Hawaii is a team that's looked really good in a couple games this year and hasn't looked very good in a couple games this year. So where are we at with what Coach Bronco Mendenhall said yesterday at his coach's press conference and set us up for this final regular season football game for the Lobos, Sean?
I can't believe it's the final week of the regular season. That is nuts. Yeah, it's pretty clear, right? As you just kind of detailed, a lot at stake in this one. And Bronco acknowledged that. Players acknowledged that when we talked to them yesterday as well, too. Because everything is kind of bumped up a little bit with it basically being a short week because they're leaving a day early. A lot at stake, and they know what they're playing for, and they also know that they just want to play their game, and they want to really, just treat it like like the game with the big stakes, but also treat it as the next opportunity, kind of straddle that balance because they've really. In particular with like the New Mexico State game and other games this season, they have just viewed games more or less as, hey, this is the next opportunity and all that as well. In terms of playing at Hawaii, Bronco said, you can see it on film, just how much harder they kind of play when they are in their home environment and all that too. He did note, and I thought this was interesting, having to communicate and talk to the team and really get the messaging right in terms of, hey, like your family is going to be coming on this trip and like, maybe people you're close with are coming on this trip and they're going to come just to recreate and really enjoy the destination like it's a bowl game or something like that. But we have to be focused on the game. He said he hasn't had any issues so far with that, especially with this team, and really hasn't any issues with them overall this year. But at the same time, it is something that he felt strongly enough about to mention. And I thought that was one interesting item from the press conference.
And his injury report was?
I believe his words were, "You're expecting this answer. I don't know." And then he basically dropped the mic right there and walked off.
We got a quick comment in here from Bianca. Bianca, how about them Aztecs for the Mountain West? I'm assuming since the timing of this is right after the San Diego State Aztecs just beat number 21 Creighton in the Players Era tournament in Vegas. We're talking hoops there. And big win for the Mountain West. Probably the third. I just tweeted it was probably the second quad one win for the league right now. It's probably the third. Utah State beating Iowa on a neutral court's probably going to end up being a quad one win at the end of the season. But Iowa State's a little lower in some of the computer metrics right now. So I digress. It's November. We don't need to talk computer numbers too much right now. But point being, San Diego State, which lost its entire roster, it seems like, from last year, just had a hell of a win, beating number 21 Creighton on a neutral court, coming off a loss to Gonzaga with some injuries. I'll give them that, but they also didn't look entirely competitive with Gonzaga, who might be top 2 or 3 team in the country. So that's not, nothing to be ashamed of there. But Gonzaga did kind of comfortably keep them at arm's length when they played. So, very good win for San Diego State. Excuse me. UNM's win against UCLA will stand the test of the season and end up being a quad one win as well. But probably Utah State and Iowa State too. probably the third quad one win today. San Diego State just picked up. So good win for the league. Very important win wise. But we will get back for now to a little bit of football talk. And we got Juan asking us on YouTube, Sean, how many football commits do you know of so far? I will point this out. I was told this week, I guess last weekend. Did they have
There was a big official visit and all that?
Like 17 kids maybe were here. Okay.
Yeah, last weekend was the a big official visit weekend.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it on Thanksgiving. My bad.
Yeah. They landed the kind of notable name out of that. Actually, Juan, I'll answer your question first. I think it's 5 or 6 right now. The one really notable prep name is Abe. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. Jaeger. I think Jaeger. And 3-star DB out of Lehigh High School in Lehigh, Utah. A lot of people, when we tweeted out that announcement and all that too, and he tweeted out his announcement as well, we're very complimentary of the player that he is. I wasn't able to look at a ton of stuff in terms of his huddle and all that because some of that was just on deadline. But like what I saw, I mean, he's not a super rangy DB, but you can see the ball skills are there too, pretty quick as well. It's a 3-star. And I don't know the last time that, this has been, I don't want to say necessarily quiet on the recruiting front. It hasn't been a focus in our coverage, honestly, in terms of just what's happening with the actual team and all that. But I don't want to say it's necessarily been quiet, but there's just been, for weeks you just saw offer, and you never saw any real commits, and those commits are starting to track. And I think I want to say that a lot of I think most of these commits that I'm seeing right now, I know most of these commits that I'm seeing right now are junior college commits. They also got a kid, Titan Saxton, another DB. He started his career at Utah State and did a redshirt of that season, did his freshman year at Snow College this last year. And he also committed yesterday as well, too. So very familiar grounds for a lot of these guys in terms of, kids out of Utah and all that. The staff, as we've kind of talked about in the show, clearly has connections in those in that state, in those recruiting communities.
I don't know if anybody's going to ask right now, but I'll go ahead and throw it out there. I mean, there are some rumors out there about Bronco and interviewing for other jobs and stuff like that. I will say any successful coach at the end of a season is going to have some of that talk anyway. Sean, I'll let you answer, but before you do, I'll kind of lay out that I've been through a lot of coaching changes and a lot of end of the season basketball rumor mill talk, and it's one of the hardest things for local reporters to cover in a lot of ways, and I'll explain why. Sean's getting a taste of this as he's already gone through one coaching change, but is still very young in his journalism career. We have an obligation not to chase every rumor. Well, I shouldn't say not to chase every rumor. We can check out any rumor, and we should check out a lot of rumors. But we do have an obligation not to go on social media and not come on shows like this and not go on radio shows and just throw out every rumor that we hear. We aren't this is, you take it however you want. We're not just bloggers. We're not just social media people. We're not just fans. We do have sort of a code, if you will. We have some ethics that we need to go by. So sometimes the fans get pretty frustrated with us when we don't chase or report on every single rumor. But there's enough little talk out there that I'll at least address the issue. I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy with what we have to say until there's a little more concrete evidence or somebody talking that's an actual source, not just a fan who heard something. National reporters who I still respect don't have to follow the same guidelines, frankly, as we do. Even though they're good journalists, they're not the ones covering a team and documenting a team in the same sense that we are. They can throw stuff out there. And in fact, I think at the national level now, we're at a state in sports journalism where national guys routinely throw names out there, sometimes doing favors for people or agents they know. And they will throw rumors out there having no chance in the world of them even being true sometimes, just because getting a name out there into the atmosphere helps somebody out. We really can't do that because of that. I think sometimes people get frustrated with the local guys, and that's where we're at. I say all that to sort of set this up. Sean, what's going on with the Bronco Mendenhall rumors? And is he interviewing for other jobs? Is he going to be the Lobo coach next year? What do you know?
To kind of build off your point, right? I mean, like, there is that concept where there's smoke, there's fire, and where there's a lot of tweets, is there actual news? Probably. It really depends on the situation. What I'll say here, in talking to people, I don't know if Bronco has or hasn't interviewed for the Utah State job. Nobody has come out and told me that he has or hasn't at this point. There has not been one side saying that he's 100% done it, and one side saying that he absolutely hasn't done it. He's super happy in New Mexico. Nobody has confirmed that to me in any stretch at this point. So I do think it is a little baseless to a certain degree, the amount of kind of social media speculation at this point. Thank you, Jimmy. I do appreciate that.
Sean is up. He's one of the 6 finalists for the New Mexico Sports Writer of the Year. Congratulations, Sean.
As are you, Geoff. Congratulations. And our entire staff. Shout out to the Journal and the entire Journal Sports team.
Pretty much it is the whole staff. Is Yotis up for it?
And James Brown. Yeah, Yotis is up for it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, everybody. And look, to kind of get back to it too, nobody has told me that he has or hasn't at this point. The only report, I've seen some people tweet too that like, oh, like, you know, they're saying this out of Logan, or they're saying this out of Utah that he's already interviewed. The only actual report I have found to this point that even connects him to the job, like actual piece of reporting, is from a national reporter. It's Pete Nakos of On3. Nakos is really well plugged in. I give him a lot of credit in the sense that he does a pretty good job covering a lot of different bases. This is from an article he put out yesterday. The current expectation, according to industry sources, is that the Utah State job will open up. That's something I think we've all operated on for a while. The Aggies are 4-7 under interim head coach Nate Dreiling. 2 names to know as the coaching search picks up for the Aggies are BYU defensive coordinator Jay Hill, who's in his 2nd year at BYU, and he's at Utah forever. Idaho head coach Jason Eck. Period. Bronco Mendenhall is also working to get his name in the mix. That one sentence right there, that one sentence is the only actual report I have seen anywhere by a reporter that has been credible and demonstrated their credibility and has demonstrated the sources that they have at this point. That being said, it's not on me at this point. I can't come on this show and say that it's not going to happen or it will happen at any point. It has not been confirmed to me at all that he's interviewed or is a finalist or anything at this point. The initial report that kind of stoked this was, and this is not a shot at Mike, I think Mike does a good job, Mike Whitman. He put out the report naming Jay Hill, and then this is on Sunday night, naming Jay Hill as being a finalist, and then he mentioned that at least one other sitting Mountain West head coach is a finalist and all that too. And that's what created this kind of speculation. To this point,
I was going to say something real quick to that. I think it would. I haven't reported on this coaching search at all, so I think it's a little premature to say finalists at this point. But these move so quick that maybe it isn't a finalist stage. Maybe they have done interviews already, but I don't know that to be true right now. Real quick, I'll let you finish up, Sean. But Juan on YouTube does say, man, that silly is literally a Utah State fan who said, I think it might be Bronco. People just ran with it. There was literally no real source pointing out that it was Bronco. I will correct that. There was at least one national reporter who has done this on a regular basis that Sean just talked about. A little bit more than just a fan and a little bit more smoke to it than that. Doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it any more or less true right now, Juan. But there was a little bit more than just a Utah State fan saying, I think it might be Bronco.
A little bit more, right?
And I'll tell you this, too. It's not that Sean and I haven't talked with people around town. We have not heard it from the horse's mouth yet from Bronco, one way or the other. But Sean and I have talked to people around town, and it is something that is not being shot down by anybody, but it's also hasn't been confirmed by anybody. So that's where we're at.
Exactly. I think that is kind of the big takeaway at this exact moment in time, because things could change quickly. You noted that, it's possible that the process is further along than people might be expecting all that. I think it's right on point for what it should be, right? Like, I think Utah State is known for a while they were not going to retain Nate Dreiling. Credit to Dreiling. Really, I mean, this has been a really tough year for that team, really tough year for him, and I think they're playing a really good ball right now. I mean, they just they thrashed Hawaii a couple weeks ago too. At the same time, it does kind of remind me of like the UAB coaching search where Brian Vincent, after Bill Clark stepped down, and BV, Brian Vincent, the former UNM offensive coordinator, he had kind of that year there, and the whole time they were kind of evaluating their options, looking at finals and all that too. I do know that they have not worked with a search firm in this. Utah State has not done that. It's just been kind of internal search committees and all that, spearheaded by Diana Sabo. Sabo's correct pronunciation, right? The Utah State AD. But yes, that is the takeaway at this point. Nobody has shot it down at this point. And honestly, in full transparency, it was something I was aware of the Twitter rumors during the Monday press conference yesterday. I was not going to ask that question strictly off Twitter rumors. I honestly needed another reason, a real reason to go ahead and ask that question in that environment. Then I saw the NACO stuff, and that changes that too.
So I think what we can fairly and comfortably talk about is why in the hell would Bronco Mendenhall leave this job, and what are the issues with this job right now that would make a guy in year one, with all the goodwill and good feelings and all the good stuff and good vibes going on in Albuquerque around this program, what would make him leave? I think there's a few really obvious answers that let's go ahead and talk about. Money is one of them. Whether you want to say Bronco isn't in it for the money or not, well, then why did he take money? He still wants to get paid. He still has a family. He still has a coaching staff that wants money and has families to take care of. And money for the coach and money for the staff could and probably would be better at Utah State. That doesn't mean that UNM hasn't already started working. I can verify that. I've talked with people at UNM. There are people willing to step up and help not only the salary pool for the coaching staff, but help significantly with NIL on the football side, should particular people stay. I will also say this, the Pac-12 situation, conference realignment changed the game a little bit in this past year from what Bronco signed on for here. He did sign on for a Mountain West program that was at the bottom of the Mountain West and wasn't really in this world of competing for CFP talk. But he probably wanted that at the end of the, if things do work out, I'd love to be in a league that might be in CFP talk. And maybe there's a thought now that the Pac-12 split makes the Mountain West in football too weak to consistently be a competitor in that. And then the last point I'll throw out there is, he was hired by two guys, really. The two guys that went out and got him are Eddie Nunez, who's now at the University of Houston, and Dave Williams, who was the deputy athletic director, and recently, since Eddie left, the interim AD, who just a couple days ago found out he will not be the next AD at UNM. He is, for now, the deputy athletic director. But the two guys that really had the sit-downs, broke bread with Bronco and his family to sort of convince him, here's what you need to know about this job and see if you want it. They're now not in the positions that they were. It doesn't mean Bronco's made any decision or public statement on what he thinks of the new AD. He just probably doesn't know the new AD very well. But all the things that check off that we can talk about this UNM job, as good a season as they're having, the money still isn't great. The future of the league is still at least in question at best. And the people that he kind of committed to have already left. Those things happen, but they're all real things. So there you go. Any comment, Sean, on any of that?
Geoff, you and I have, I don't know if we've done on this show, but we have joked about how every single college football, college basketball, college whatever coach press conference introductory kind of deal is the worst, because you hear one word over and over and over again: alignment. We talked about alignment when we were getting hired, and when we hired this guy, we talked about, that's all we talked about, alignment. And it's just this buzzword that administrators and coaches absolutely love. But it is true. There is something to that. Absolutely. I mean, you are aligned with somebody when they hire you 90% of the time, ideally, right? And I mean, news, obviously, not breaking news. Eddie Nunez and Dave Williams were integral and instrumental in getting Bronco here in the first place. And I don't think Bronco's interacted. Actually, I can't say that. But I don't think Bronco, in judging by his comments yesterday, honestly, is against Fernando or anything like that. I don't think there's ill will or anything of that note. But at the same time, Fernando's not the guy that hired him. The guys that hired them, one is out the door and at Houston. The other one will be leaving soon as well. So it's – I think that is –
we don't know that with 100% certainty on Dave Williams leaving soon.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I spoke out of turn there. But yeah,
I think there's a good chance that when you're a finalist for the job and you interview for it and you clearly wanted it, and then they hire a much younger guy to come in and be your boss, there's a good chance that maybe you explore other options. So I think there's a very real chance that Dave Williams won't be there. But he is not, just to be clear, he's not announced anything like that.
Yeah.
He's still the deputy AD at the University of New Mexico.
Excuse me. Yeah, I spoke out of turn there. But yeah, I think those factors make sense 100% in the sense of, well, why, as you kind of are getting the ball rolling here and all that too. I can't speak, honestly. I'll add this too. I know, because of one of the initial reports and all that too, where it was, okay, well, Utah and Mountain West coaches, it's got to be Bronco. I don't know how Bronco feels about if he wants to go back to Utah or anything like that. And honestly, I really, to me, it's, even when they played at Utah State, there was never any echoing of it being like a sentimental thing and all that, even though that's where he's from and he grew up and he coached previously. So yeah, it is. I can't speak to any of those factors and all that too. But the other ones, I think we can speak to those being legitimate factors.
I will throw this out there, Jimmy H. Bronco doesn't quit a job until it's complete. Okay. I have nothing but respect for Bronco. There are factors that might lead to it that aren't even personal necessarily. Bronco's a man about the people around him, right? And there are some factors that could be better for the people around him, for his assistants, for his coaching staff, and all that kind of stuff. So there's some factors to all this that could come into play. But in general, his messaging has certainly been on point with, we came here to do a job. It would surprise me. I will say this. It would surprise me if Bronco left after just 1 year, especially 1 year that was better than most people thought. I don't know. In an honest moment at the end of the season, I would be curious to hear Bronco give an honest assessment of how surprised or not he is. Coaches do, I think, genuinely think of things in different ways than fans, right? We in media and fans certainly put numbers on it. How many wins are you going to have? What's the over-under on win total? And are you going to make a bowl game?
We love timelines.
Right. Time, yeah. And look, we talk about it in terms of that. And Bronco has consistently from day one been about progress. And I'm curious where that progress goes. Progress doesn't necessarily always line up with 6 wins or 7 wins or 5 wins. And progress doesn't always line up with we got in a bowl or we didn't. Progress can be a lot of different things and sometimes hard to define. So I am curious to hear at the end of the season in an honest moment from Bronco if he is surprised with the progress of his team this year, even if they get to a bowl or if they don't get to a bowl. I'm curious to hear if he's genuinely surprised as fans and media basically are, because it's hard to say you're surprised when you've been saying from the start this is what you're trying to do. And if you're trying to do this and you do it and then you say you're surprised you actually pulled it off, there's some weird messaging going on there. So sometimes coaches aren't surprised as fans and media are. And but in this case, I kind of think he might even be surprised with how good they've done.
I don't know if you'll ever catch him using the word surprise. This was kind of a question that he was asked yesterday at the press conference, in a certain sense of just, like you're on the precipice of a bowl game and after an 0-4 start and, a season that, where you kind of alluded to the idea, you certainly could have made progress as a program and all that too, but maybe not just had those wins. But you are on this spot. And, he said, and it's something that he said before too, he's like, we had no idea about the timing, but we knew about the plan. We knew about what we were going to, what we were getting into. We knew what we were signing up for. He said, that entire process has been incredibly gratifying and it's been challenging. And generally been, this part he didn't say outright, but he kind of alluded to been a lot of fun and all that, been rewarding. but didn't say it was surprising in particular. But I don't know. I mean, it would be certainly, honestly, I mean, whether they win or lose, I think it's a question that's worth going back to with all the games in and kind of, evaluating that and getting back to what that answer could be.
I want to jump into something else right now because, again, we're not going to doom and gloom the other job speak too much. I know Adam is already saying I'm gonna need to meditate or something after this. A lot of rumors. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull that down already. A lot of rumors out there. We addressed them. We'll probably leave it at that. We're not going to talk end of season too much yet.
Can I say one thing? And it kind of ties to Jimmy's point earlier too. Like, I really struggle to see a world in which you would get. I really struggle to see any legitimate like news coming out about this continuing through the week. If there was to be news, it would be after the Hawaii game. I have a really hard time seeing it. I don't know for sure if he has or hasn't interviewed and all that too, just reiterating the point. I really have a hard time seeing, him being distracted by that process ahead of this Hawaii game, the pivotal game, and the team being distracted by that process ahead of that game.
And a couple other things to that. I think the Devin Dampier question may already be answered behind closed doors. We don't know, but Devin Dampier is a part of this. The new AD starts on Monday. It would be weird timing to sort of undercut the start of a new AD by leaving before he even sits down in his office. But those are just some other factors. All right, I'm going to get to what Ben has here now. And I want to kind of go over this here. Ben Wysong says, "Congrats on YouTube is breaking news. Congratulations to offensive coordinator Jason Beck for his Broyles Award nomination for top assistant coach. Very deserving of this nomination, and he's taken this offense to incredible heights. That is true. I'm going to pull up the screen. Sean, what do you know so far? I don't know that a release has been put out.
Release is out. He is one of 65 nominees across the country. I did not tally all of the Mountain West nominees. I know Lubick at Nevada is also a nominee. I know I'm blanking on his name. The special teams coordinator at UNLV. They've done a really nice job there too. Is also a nominee as well. Yeah, and Geoff, you just pulled up the entire list. Jason is richly deserving of this. You don't need to hear it from me. You just need to watch the games. Richly deserving, and what he's done with this offense is incredible. I think it's the number 4 offense in the country in terms of total offense and yards per game. I don't know exactly where they're at in terms of scoring offense. I got to look that up, but I know that I'm pretty sure this is still the best offensive season since 2016 or 2015 in terms of scoring offense and all that too. But beyond the numbers on what he's done with Devin Dampier and what the quarterback that he has made him into, what he's done with the receivers, what he's done with the run game in particular, that and frankly, maybe the most impressive part with an offensive line that had never played it down together before this season, had to deal with a lot of injuries and all that. Just really unbelievably impressive. I won't put words in Jason's mouth. I would kind of just knowing him, though, to a certain point, I would imagine that, he'd give a lot of credit to the players and the assistant coaches as well, working with them.
And tell you what, to Devin Dampier and to Luke Wysong and
exactly.
As you said, to the players, to that offensive line. To
the players, yeah.
I mean, we can list everybody on that offense and be pretty impressed with it. This is not meant to be to diminish it. Because UNM assistants don't often or always get nominated for this. There are 132, 134 Division FBS programs, and what did you say, 65? Have about half of them are probably going to end up having a coach nominated at this point. That's not meant to diminish it, but that is why you're seeing, Nevada's Matt Lubick up there as well. I would say that Jason Beck, if this was a 30 assistant coach or 35 assistant coach nominee kind of process, Jason Beck to me would be deserved of being up there. I don't know what number. I certainly am not going to pretend to know the Old Dominion assistant coach Kevin Smith from
you don't know Kevin? Come on, man.
Corey Batoon, yeah, right. So I'm not going to pretend to know all these guys. So I'm not going to say Jason Beck would be better than these 30 or these 20 or that whatever. I'm not going to do that. But what Jason Beck in this offense at New Mexico has done this year has been remarkable in a lot of ways. And,
yeah.
So it seems pretty deserving to me.
Absolutely incredible, richly deserved. I don't remember what the Broyles cut down thing is. I don't remember if it's 65 and then it goes to like 30 and then 10 finalists and all that. I think it is 10 finalists. I'm pretty sure that's what I remember from years past. I certainly think he has a case to win the Broyles outright. I don't know if that'll happen. It says right there the selection process includes the FWAA, Football Writers Association of America. I'm a member, but I am not a part of that selection committee, so I'm not privy to how that might work out. But yeah, I mean, I'll say it for the third time. Richly deserved. He's done an incredible job, and this was not a bad offense last year either, but it's just kind of been taken to a whole new level and all that.
Yeah, I thought the offense was actually pretty good last year.
Yeah.
So there we are. This is but you're right. It's at a new level, and there we are. As far as this week's game goes, Sean, let's talk a little Hawaii football and what's on the line. Obviously, not a winning season, but 6 wins, 6-6 record, and bowl eligibility. I don't know what the numbers are right now. Excuse me, but I don't think there's going to be any problem with a 6-6 New Mexico team finding a bowl.
No.
So they would get in, and I would guess. I have not talked to Geoff Symbieta. I don't know that you have either. I know I talk with Geoff on a regular basis. So I have not talked to Geoff Symbieta, but I would imagine that with the feeling around this town and this community of Lobo football right now, despite the fact, and we've talked about it on the show, that even as good as they've been doing, the attendance at Lobo games hasn't been great. I would be willing to bet that Geoff Symbieta would love to have the New Mexico Lobos in the New Mexico Bowl. They've been there before, but I kind of think he would love to have that opportunity and sell some tickets. And I think it would be the best draw of the season for a Lobo football game, though technically it would not be a Lobo football game. It would be a bowl game. So I think Geoff Symbieta would certainly have a spot for the Lobos in the New Mexico Bowl. And I know there's pecking orders on all these kind of things. There's also haggling that goes on behind the scenes. If Geoff Symbieta wants the UNM Lobos in the New Mexico Bowl, I'll bet Geoff Symbieta can figure it out with some other bowls and move some teams around if he has to. But that's all speculation on my part, which I just got done earlier saying, we can't really do that as in our position. But there you go. I just speculated that if they get bowl eligible, I would be shocked if the New Mexico Bowl doesn't really try and get the New Mexico Lobos.
I think you covered it. I think you covered all of it. Yeah, no. I think this New Mexico team and this kind of year, and it culminated in a New Mexico Bowl, I think that would have a lot of people excited. And I think a lot of people will be excited to come out and see them return to the postseason. And I would expect that to be a pretty good draw. Like you said, not a proper UNM football home game, but a game at University Stadium, a game in Albuquerque and all that too.
Yeah.
Cool to, at least for me, in terms of like covering stuff, like cool to have New Mexico teams in the New Mexico Bowl back-to-back years. I think that's pretty neat. So
I prefaced all that, then I took it off the rails and talked bowls. I prefaced all that by saying, what do we got on the line for Hawaii? Tell us a little something about what people can expect from the actual game. It doesn't start till 9 p.m. Mountain Time. What are your thoughts on what's going to actually happen on the field on Saturday?
Yeah, so the big thing of Hawaii right now, when everybody hears Hawaii football, they think about the run and shoot and June Jones and all of that. They don't run a proper run and shoot in the way that they did under Jones and all that, and that's to be expected. Football has changed, but they run a lot of run and shoot concepts. They're not at the level where they're passing it more than anybody in the league. Utah State, I believe, leads them not by a lot, but by a little bit in terms of attempts per game, passing attempts per game. It's been kind of a weird year for the offense. It's been kind of inconsistent in certain ways. One thing they're dealing with right now, and a big note, and I see a couple one comment at the very least kind of noting this. Braden Shager is Hawaii's starting quarterback. He's been starting quarterback last year, all this year as well too. Was really good last year, has struggled a little bit this year in terms of consistency. He's passed for, I think, around 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He exited the Utah State game. It was a 51-10 loss to Utah State 2 weeks ago, and then Hawaii had a bye heading into this game like UNM. Adam, exactly. He exited with a leg and knee and ankle, separate knee and ankle injuries. And I believe an MRI came back on one of them that it was an ankle sprain. I don't know. I haven't seen anything out of Hawaii at this point in terms of, Timmy Chang saying he'll be good to go. I got to look up the two quarterbacks that filled up time for him. That filled in his place in the Utah State game to try and get their names right. I don't want to guess them off the top of my head. But, I don't know. I think there's a possibility that he couldn't play. I wouldn't be shocked if he did play either. But that's certainly something to monitor heading into it. I'm going to be taking a look at it too. Hawaii had a really good receiver last year, Steve McBride. He has not played this year. I don't know for sure if he's still suspended from the team. He was arrested in, I believe, July. He was arrested at some point. But Pofuli Ashlock, and he's been really, really nice for them too. I got to look up the other kid's name. I don't want to get this. I don't want to get his name wrong. So good receivers. We'll see what's going on with the quarterbacks. They don't run it a ton. Shagers ran it more this year than previous seasons. At the same time, though, kind of the story from me of Hawaii, they brought in a new defensive coordinator, Dennis Thurman, a lot of NFL background, played in the NFL if I'm not mistaken. There's some good talent on this defense, particularly in the secondary. I really like Peter Manuma. I really like Cam Stone. I think they're two of the best or better DBs in the Mountain West. I think this is the first time since 2020, and that was with a limited sample size that Hawaii is allowing under 30 points per game. It's just been in some years for Hawaii, the defense has been far from the kind of saving grace. It has been more of an offensive lean and all that too. But at this point, I mean, they do have some nice stuff going on with the defense. And in terms of the game itself, look, I mean, Hawaii's record 4-7, 2-4 in the Mountain West. The 2 wins were to Nevada, and then kind of a miraculous last minute win against Fresno State at Fresno State. I mean,
Fresno State, what they've done, they beat Colorado State, they soundly beat New Mexico. And then they're losing to 2-4 Hawaii.
I know. So. Yeah, it's at the same time though. They had a 28-7 loss to Boise, and I believe that was on the island. That's not a good looking score. Hawaii was in that game till like the very end. They were really in that game. I mean, until it was a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter. And Boise kind of survived and got out of there with the win. They played UNLV really close, 29-27 loss. And then they played, I believe, San Diego State to a 27-24 loss. It's kind of similar to what you've heard Bronco talk about all year in the sense of that there is kind of like one or two teams, or maybe just one, honestly, and maybe none, honestly, after what we saw with the Boise State-Wyoming game on Saturday night too, where it's a league with a ton of parity. And, kind of anybody can get it on any given night. I mean, everybody can play everybody kind of type, more or less. There isn't really a true kind of bottom feeder or something like that. There is a fire truck outside the office right now. I wonder what is going on.
Who would, if only there was a whole newsroom to your right of people who might be able to go ask a question like, hey, what's a fire truck doing?
I mean, they're not doing anything, but I don't know if they see it. Yeah, no, they're getting off the fire truck. Well, if there's a fire, we'll keep going throughout this.
Yeah, we're here through rain, snow, fire. We're here for you guys. Richie, this is back to the bowl discussion when I was talking about the New Mexico Bowl. Richie on YouTube was saying that would be FN awesome if I could see some Lobo football again. And
Richie, you deserve a bowl appearance. You put the team on your back.
You carried him, Richie. You're the one who got him in this position. So, Ben, however, is pointing out the 2 trips to Hawaii in a month. It's possible.
Oh man,
I assume we're talking Hawaii Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think that's wishful thinking. It could be wishful thinking. I don't know. Look, the team would love to go to Hawaii, right? I guess it would bring into play the whole thing you talked about in the preseason with Bronco about going to Las Vegas. Or do you go to the bowl games as a let's go have a family vacation kind of thing? Remember when he was talking about how many players he used to have that would bring their wives when he coached at BYU?
Exactly.
And is Hawaii is the bowl game really about how much fun you can have at the location, or is it about business should be about both. That's sort of what the reward of the bowl game structure is. Jimmy rightfully points out, Ben, that you are spoiled if you think Hawaii twice in a month is what's going to happen. And if good for the Lobos though if they do pull that off. By the way, two trips to Hawaii in a month would be nice. It would be tough on the fans, but as Ben then replies, "Don't tell that to my bank account, Jimmy." Yeah, it'd be rough on some fans' bank accounts, that's for sure. But I'll bet you there would be plenty of Lobo fans that showed up to the bowl wherever it may be, and that's what it is. Ben saw the UNLV game prior. I missed what that one was in reference to.
Hawaii UNLV game?
It was at the Hawaii UNLV game.
I don't know for sure. I'm not sure.
All right, so we covered the bases on sort of what to expect from the game itself. It is a late starting game. There is some distraction, I suppose, out there a little bit, but certainly not brought on by Bronco or anybody internally. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Jimmy is saying yes, that's what he was in reference to.
Oh, did Ben go to the? Oh, so Ben went to the. Did he go to UNLV Hawaii?
He saw it anyway. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. So look, it's a big game, and obviously bowl game or future of the program kind of stuff. None of that really even comes into play when you think about how this team's been playing week to week anyway, right? Coaches always talk about trying to get their team to be a week to week team. Let's go 1-0 this week, this opponent, and certainly the Lobo coaching staff hasn't stopped recruiting. Got some commitments in the past week. They got a whole lot of commitments for next year's team, right? So all those are signs like things are going along just as you would expect. And I don't think there's a player on that team, the way they've been playing, that wants to just sort of mail it in now. And I would expect the Lobos will be about as ready for a game on the islands as you can be ready for. And sometimes teams do get a little distracted going over there. I just don't see it with this Lobo team. We'll see. I could be wrong, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's also like Bronco hasn't done this trip before. I mean, he's made this trip previously at BYU, and he's certainly done a lot of bowl games and more destination bowl games and other two in his time. So yeah, I imagine they would absolutely be prepared. That's not, and I'm not taking anything away from Hawaii here. Like I do think that. I know that Hawaii, they're mathematically eliminated from the bowl game. They kind of have the tough thing, too, where they played 2 FCS teams this year. So they've been out of the bowl conversation for a little bit now. But really, they've only had one true kind of blowout, and it was that Utah State game. And I imagine they will absolutely come out and kind of be willing to play spoiler to UNM, absolutely 100%.
Let me throw this out there. The math on this works out in some years. But when you play at Hawaii, the NCAA allows you to play a 13th game. Mm-hmm. The Lobos only had 5 home games this year, and I don't think anybody really thought we would be talking about getting to 6 wins for bowl eligibility. 6 and 7 teams can play in a bowl if there aren't enough 6 and 6 teams that qualify for all the bowls.
5 and 7 can play for 5 and 7.
But 6 and 7 can also play. If it's a 13 game
my bad. I'm sorry. I completely my bad.
But you're right. 5 and 7 as well. They allow 5 and 7 in a 12 game season or 6 and 7 in a 13 game season to get there. Because basically bowl eligibility we think of as 6 games. The truth is bowl eligibility is 500.
Yeah.
And if you play 13 games, 6 and 7 obviously isn't that. But the risk is that I suppose that you could lose that 7th game and not be 500 and bowl eligible if you play that 13th game. Anyway, I'll ask you this, Sean. Any regret not taking advantage from UNM, or do you know not taking advantage of the opportunity to have played one more game?
No inclination. I haven't gotten any inclination of that, to be honest with you, at this point. I think it would have been maybe something a little bit more interesting if honestly, I don't even know if it would have been that interesting. I think it's easy to look at the season right now, like where it is right now, 5 and 6 chance to play for a bowl game and be like, man, we're happy this worked out this way. As opposed to, when it was 0-4 or they were even 1-4. And it's like, man, we could have used another FCS win at some point or something like that to kind of inch things along. But the point was always clear from Bronco was that, I mean, they were only going to add a game if they felt that it was, it was going to be not a benefit, but it was going to give them something too. Like if they felt it was going to be the right situation, the right opponent, the right time, all of that. And that opportunity never came up. And at this point too, I mean, it's late November. They have an incredibly meaningful game, a huge game this weekend. And I mean, they're absolutely surpassing all the expectations. So yeah, I don't think there's really any regret on that note, at least in my eyes at this point.
Richie, I'm glad you get to see most of this football game getting off at 10 o'clock on a Saturday. Yeah, it's rough sometimes if you're on the afternoon swing or night shift, whatever, catching up with some football sometimes. And I'm glad you get to see some of this. So good for you there.
Richie, you can add the comment. Has Dable lost? Has he lost the locker room? I did not like what I heard from neighbors over the weekend. It was not good. Richie, diehard Giants fan.
So, yeah. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We got Juan asking a question on YouTube. Thoughts on the new AD? Let's cover a little bit of ground on the new AD. Sunday, the announcement was made. Fernando Lobo, Lovo, has been named as the new athletic director at UNM. He is basically an executive, senior, deputy, whatever, all those different associate titles you can throw in front of AD. He's one of the top number twos at the University of Texas right now, which has a $230-something million athletic budget. Chris Del Conte is the athletic director there. He is a New Mexico native and certainly respected as one of the best athletic directors or most powerful, influential athletic directors in the country. And
definitely powerful and influential, 100%.
Yes, he certainly spoke highly of Fernando and of New Mexico to Fernando when applying for this job. And Fernando, at 36 years old, is extremely young. Sean may not think so because Sean, have you got your learner's permit yet, Sean? How old are you? I forget.
I am 24. I'm 12 years younger.
Okay.
You have my learner's permit. 100%.
24. He does have his learner's permit. Sean's a young buck. He doesn't start thinking in these terms yet. I can tell you I'm a little bit older than Sean, and I've gotten past the stage where I'm covering coaches who are about my same age. Weir and Patino kind of covered those bases for me. This is the first time I've covered a person, either a coach or athletic director, that I'm going to be very much involved in covering who's fairly significantly younger than me. We would not have been in high school at the same time. We're going to college at the same time. This is a guy who's a little younger than me in my 40s. So it's a little bit weird. And I think a lot of people are worried because of his age and his experience. That's fair. I'm not going to tell anybody not to be worried about it. His experience is unique for this job too, by the way. It's very football specific. Mm-hmm. The priorities have been outlined. The priorities at UNM right now are to get football right. It's kind of heading down that path. They hired a guy to maybe continue it along down that path. And we'll see if Bronco and him align, since alignment is the buzzword of athletic departments everywhere. But he does have football experience. He's been a chief of staff, a operations director. He's been whatever title you want to give to some pretty high level football programs, including University of Houston, as they were setting up for getting invited to the Big 12 and presenting themselves and making themselves worthy of getting invited to the Big 12. He was a part of that. So that's interesting that, he has set up a program to look attractive enough to get invited to a bigger conference. UNM certainly wants to be in position for that. It should conference realignment come back around. And I think too that it's worth pointing out that he has worked with some of the biggest programs. Urban Meyer specifically, he's worked in the NFL for a year when Urban Meyer was at Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. He's worked in administration the last several years. He has not specifically been in fundraising, but as a guy who's overseen capital projects, has been in the room as money has been secured for $500 million. As he told me, $500 million worth of capital projects at the University of Texas. So we're talking facilities upgrades, locker rooms, upgrades and stuff, renovations to the football stadium, maybe practice field, stuff like that. He's been in the room, sort of securing, $500 million worth of those. That doesn't mean he was the guy doing the fundraising. UNM needs a fundraiser. They have fundraisers in place. We'll see how many stay. I asked him if he was going to be if he knew anybody he was going to be bringing on, or anybody he might be transitioning out, frankly. And he said way too early to know any of that. The guy hasn't started the job yet, but he's starting next week, man. And we'll see how this goes. I am curious. It fits the mold of what Eddie Nunez was when he got here. The number 2 at a very high SEC school. Texas now is an SEC school as well. But a young up and coming number 2 at an SEC school is what they hired last time, and it took a little while, I think, for Eddie to get his footing. But he took over at a really weird time for UNM athletics, and scandal was going on and money problems. Fernando Lobo now takes over at a really unique time where there's a transition going in terms of there was just conference realignment, and UNM was basically told, you are not worthy of our transition into the Pac-12 by some member schools, and it's because of football, and it's because of investment in the program. So he's got some challenges himself. We'll see how he addresses those, and we'll start to get to know a little more next week. I was a little surprised that they went with Fernando because of his experience. Hasn't necessarily been in administration, but if you look at the trend across the country in terms of conference commissioners, and if you look at the trend, a lot of ADs being selected now, that they're not all coming from the long line of administration in athletics. A lot of them aren't, lifers in college athletics administration. And while Fernando has been a lifer in this position, it's really been football specific most of his career. So clearly they want to get football right. The commitment is there, but they got to get the money. We'll see how that converts to running an entire department, right? And not losing out on things like men's and women's basketball still having very good attendance relative to the rest of the country. You got a cross-country program that's winning national championships, or competing rather for national championships. He's got to oversee all that now too. So we'll see how he handles all that. But I will say the move comes with a lot of questions, but it also is an indication in my mind that football is genuinely not just they're not just speaking it, but genuinely the priority to get right here at UNM right now.
Priority number 1, football. Priority number 2, make sure Hampton Samuel has 2 shoes for the entire duration of a NCAA cross-country final. Yeah, you outlined it incredibly well, better than I could have. And it is interesting, right? I mean, like, it's a pretty remarkable rise when you think that. I mean, like, and this is not like a derogatory thing either. Like, know a solid amount of people with football ops backgrounds and all that too, and close with a good deal. To make that rise from ops and all that too to this point it's pretty remarkable and pretty outstanding. Do you remember how old Eddie was when he got hired?
He was in his 30s. I want to say he might have been right around 40, 39 or 40.
Okay, so a little bit older. Nothing. Yeah.
It wasn't much older. I mean, he was a young hire too. I'm covering very closely a basketball program that had a coach previous that was in his 30s when he got the job, in Paul Weir, and now has a coach who has been coaching since he was 28, 28, I think. And anyway, Richard Pitino right now is 42, and it's had 13 years experience, including a decade almost in the Big Ten. So experience and youth and all that kind of stuff it's a number, but it's certainly not the only factor in all this, right? It comes down to some other things too. I will say this: it's worth throwing out there. It's sort of, wouldn't say it's an elephant in the room, but there are some local candidates, some internal candidates who are young, who didn't get finalist interviews, who may not have been considered at all. But at least 2 I can tell you that are young guys that I think youth and inexperience might have played a role against them, and yet they hire a 36-year-old, and that's Jalen Dominguez, the executive director at the Lobo Club. I think would be his history in fundraising. I was a little surprised he maybe didn't get to the finalist round. I think he is a guy that could have been a finalist and could have been considered for this job. And Ryan Berryman, he's only 32, but a guy who is very publicly made clear he would love to be the athletic director at UNM one day. It's sort of grew up wanting to be an athletic director at UNM, and worked his way up from basketball manager to student regent, which was a very powerful position where he got to know a lot of politicians and really the guys behind the scenes, who get things done not only at New Mexico or University of New Mexico, but around the state. Ryan, was a part of that for a while, and left here just a couple months ago. Left here actually, I think a week before Eddie did. Back in August, left the University of New Mexico, where he was basically overseeing the finances, to take a job at the Big Ten's University of Washington, which is a much bigger budget to deal with. It's a whole different game. They're talking in terms of football money there. Just football ticket revenue at the University of Washington is basically almost what the entire athletic department budget at New Mexico is. So very different game. He's going to go learn more about that kind of stuff, and probably be ready for the next cycle to be a real serious candidate himself. But at 32, I don't think Ryan was given much consideration, and yet they hired somebody just 4 years older than him at 36. So if we're talking youth, I just wanted to throw those two names out there, Jalen Dominguez and Ryan Berryman, as two guys that I don't think really got a whole lot of consideration, maybe because of youth and inexperience. And at the same time, two other internal candidates I'm aware of, Ed Manzanares and Dave Williams, were both internal guys that threw their hat in the ring for certainly. And Dave did get a finalist interview. Ed Manzanares did not. And there we are. We're where we are now. We'll see what the transition goes like in terms of who stays and who goes, because there could be some transition along those lines as well. I think things are in a really good place for UNM athletics in general, where you got a basketball team that went to the tournament. You got a football team that looks like it's going in the right direction. Fundraising is on its 5th year in a row of setting new records in terms of fundraising. So I think in general, athletics at UNM is in a good spot right now. And I've covered this, been at the Journal for 13 seasons now, 12 years, going and I'm covering my 13th season, and it has not in that time always been very good at the University of New Mexico athletics. So it's in a good spot right now. I think if they can keep the momentum going, some good things should happen. This should carry on for a little while, but transition's always tough. So we'll see what happens with all that. And what else do we got? We got Jimmy's pointing out that Sean, Dickie V would call you a diaper dandy.
I think so. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Sean's a young buck, that's for sure. Richie's got a holy crap, I'm 25.
Richie, let's go. Look at us.
You guys, you youngins out there.
Oh.
So one other thing I'll throw out there is as far as football goes, Sean, maybe you can help me out. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what are the dates of when? Let's just assume the season ends Saturday. I know nobody wants to talk in terms of that, but for a lot of teams around the country, the season's ending now. The season's about to end. Transfer decisions and announcements happen pretty quick. Transfer portal stuff happens pretty quickly. Whenever the season does end, when should Lobo fans kind of brace themselves for starting to see the tweets and starting to see the announcements of so-and-so throwing their name in the portal? And I loved my time at UNM, go Lobos. But with that being said, I'm throwing my name in the transfer portal. When can that start happening should the season end on Saturday?
Yeah, so the portal, to be clear, the portal formally opens on Monday, December 9th, and then I believe it closes on December 28th. December 8th, Justin, you got me, dude. So I was close.
December 8th or 9th, there we go.
December 8th or 9th, one of those days. You theoretically look at the end of the regular season with the YA game, you could see, and I don't know if you should be shocked. In particular, you could definitely see some guys absolutely make the announcement. That's what we saw. They've been playing in bowl games, but to be honest with you, the last couple of years, obviously. But I wouldn't be shocked. It's certainly not uncommon for guys to kind of move out, without taking on the bowl and all that, and put their name into the portal. And Mendenhall has made it very clear that if you do decide to enter the portal, it's not really we're going to try and woo you back and all that. In most instances, I don't know if there would be a dissenting instance or something like that, but he's made it clear if you enter the portal and you make that decision, you go public with it, you're no longer with the team. That's just kind of that. That being said, I believe the New Mexico Bowl is what, December 28th? Pretty sure. If they were to make the New Mexico Bowl, I will double check that right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
It would be basically.
You're right, December 28th.
Yeah, December 28th. It would be, if you were to enter the portal, it would be kind of imperative that you were going to have to make that decision. Kind of at not like super early and all that too, but certainly in that range too. So look, I would just to kind of sum it up, I would expect that there's going to be some people that will make the decision to transfer upon and announce their decision immediately after the season. As for everybody else, I'm not sure. And this is an excellent point by Justin, and it's something that frankly I want to talk to Bronco about really after this next week and see what kind of happens there, because this is going to be pretty interesting going forward to see how it's managed, especially at this level.
Yeah, and as Justin pointed out there, the other angle to this is that FBS programs will have to cut to 105, so maybe more numbers. Some FBS programs will cut down to 105. Some FBS programs may not have a lot of cutting to do to get to 105.
Yeah.
That's going to affect things, right? We'll see how it affects a program like the University of New Mexico.
And to be frank, I don't 100% know at this point. I'm not entirely sure. I'm very curious to see how things play out. I'm very curious to talk to Bronco about what they're going to do and how they're planning to approach this. So yeah.
The for people that don't know, it's 85 scholarships right now, but you're allowed unlimited walk-ons in football. Is that right? Or there's a limit or something?
I don't remember the exact. I don't think it's unlimited walk-ons, to be honest with you.
No, but Justin probably has the answer because he's covering one of the programs that probably maxes that number out.
Yeah.
And at New Mexico, they haven't always maxed that out because they can't. They can't afford to necessarily. But in the Big 12, they certainly are where they can. And I'll tell you this: the house settlement and the roster numbers and all that kind of stuff that's about to happen in terms of roster sizes and stuff like that, how it's going to affect college sports in general is one thing. How it's going to affect a program like New Mexico that just doesn't have a ton of money is another. It's going to be interesting. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people here in Albuquerque and down in Las Cruces just don't know yet what it's going to mean and what's going to happen here just in the next few months in terms of all that. But as far as the transfer portal goes, let's see here. 120, I think, is the max. Rule at Nebraska said something about them being at 145 last week. So I don't know. Yeah, Matt Rule and there's been who was it? Was it Dabo maybe?
Yeah, Dabo said something today about similar vein as Rule. I'm pretty sure.
Like, what are we going to do? Like, this is the horrible thing to cut it down.
Dabo loves to do that with everything. What are we going to do? Like,
yeah,
I do love Dabo. Dabo, tremendous content, but sometimes I don't know if it's the 100% the right move for him to kind of sit in his seat and do the whole, what are we going to do? Kind of that stuff.
What was me for Dabo? Nobody really believes that, but we are also looking. I'm looking at a tweet from 2 seconds ago. Fernando Lobo. I am truly honored and humbled to join Lobo Athletics. Thank you, President Stokes, for this amazing opportunity. My family and I can't wait to get to Albuquerque next week.
Officially official?
Yeah, it's Twitter official now. It's X official now. So I don't know why that was just now tweeted. I'm sure Fernando's watching. He's a longtime listener and watcher of this show. So Fernando, how you doing? He is probably tweeting that right now because he is watching our show, I'm sure.
He's probably trying to plot a way out of the job after listening to us.
Yeah, he's like, if this is the coverage that I'm walking into, Jesus.
Chris didn't tell me some element of respectability. No,
Chris didn't tell me about this bushy-chinned, white-haired, bearded guy than the kid who doesn't even eat grapes.
Guys that sit in front of their laptops for like an hour and a half and just
rambling.
Guess. Like, yeah, I guess maybe, sure.
Yeah, a lot of anybody else out there want to answer our questions for us? So anyway, let me touch on some Lobo basketball real quick. There was a press conference earlier today. They play at the Acrisure Classic, a 4-team MTE, which is a multi-team event in college basketball. Those are the holiday tournaments. They're called the MTEs. Not usually. Sometimes they're 8 teams and bracket format. Sometimes they're 8 teams and you just play 3 of them. Like last year, that's what the Lobos did in Henderson, where it wasn't a bracket. You just knew which 3 teams you were going to play. This year, the Lobos are in a 4-team event. Technically, Grambling was in it too, but those are called campus games. The event itself in Palm Springs on Thursday and Friday will feature the Lobos playing Arizona State on Thursday, and depending on win or loss, and then the other 2 teams win or loss, the other 2 teams are USC of the Big Ten and St. Mary's West. Yeah, and St. Mary's of the West Coast Conference, who the Lobos have played in each of the past 2 years and are 1-1 at St. Mary's. This will be a neutral court game, obviously, in Palm Springs. But the Lobos are about to have 2 quality opponents this week, Arizona State and either USC or St. Mary's. According to KenPom, they would be favored against Arizona State. And let me give you an exact on that. KenPom is saying that the Lobos should win 79-77 against Arizona State. I'll tell you, of Arizona State, they played really good in their loss to Gonzaga. They played horrible in their season opener against a really bad Idaho State team and almost lost, but ended up pulling it out. They didn't look overly impressive to me, but beat a Santa Clara team that I actually thought was going to be really good this year. And then weren't overly impressive against a good Grand Canyon team. I've seen them multiple times. They are sitting at 5-1, and their best game to me was probably their loss to Gonzaga, where they were competitive and had a chance to win on the road. I haven't seen in any of their 5 wins what I saw in their 1 loss. Their most recent game was on Wednesday. They beat Cal Poly at home, and they beat Cal Poly, which is ranked on KenPom 250. They beat them by 4. It was a 93-89 game. So this is a team, a young, inexperienced together kind of team where there's a lot of transfers and some true freshmen playing for them. Arizona State team that can look pretty good, but can also – sorry, just reading the text there – can also look like a team that hasn't played much together. So it'll be interesting. They got some size. The Lobos didn't handle the size of St. John's overly well, but they handled the very aggressive style of UCLA quite well and led or never trailed in the UCLA game. They were tied at 2-2, so it's not technically a lead wire to wire. But I think the Lobos have 2 good opportunities, regardless of who they play Friday. Both of these games, Thursday and Friday, will be 2 really good opportunities for a Lobo team that needs to build its non-conference schedule up as best it can. And they're playing okay. Today, Richard Pitino said he watched the game film of Sunday's Texas Southern win. And after the game on Sunday, he said, other than UCLA, I think this might have been our best game. Well, today, he said, watching the game film of Texas Southern in terms of executing, not if they made the shots or not, but in terms of executing what they were trying to do, he said this might have been even a more complete game on Sunday when they won by 30 plus, by 31. He thought that maybe the Texas Southern win was even a more complete game than it was against UCLA when they beat UCLA earlier in the year. Obviously, 2 different extremes there of who you're playing competition-wise. But the point is, he is happy with what they're doing right now. Donovan Dent's playing well. True Washington, I'll tell you right now, True Washington, the last few games might be their MVP in my mind. He is doing things aggressively and on defense and energy-wise that nobody else is doing. He is on a pace that is ahead of Jalen House's single-season steal record pace from 2 years ago. He is defensively, True Washington, every bit of what Richard Pitino was hoping for and more. When Pitino in the preseason told me he thought that True Washington, if he's serious about this thing and if he's serious about defense, True Washington could compete for Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year this year as a sophomore. I thought that might be a little bold, a little ambitious, but not at all. They're 6 games through, and True Washington, if he can keep this up and stay out of foul trouble like he has, it's been so good defensively, tremendous defensively. So if they can get Nelly Jr. Joseph going again, I think the Lobo basketball team's in a good spot right now. But we'll see. It's a really good Arizona State team they play. There's a chance they go 0-2 this week, and Lobo fans will just start panicking. People around the league will be like, see, the New Mexico Lobos aren't as good as everyone thought they were going to be, blah, blah, blah. They could go 0-2 and it not really be that bad of a thing because they're playing two good opponents. They could go 2-0 and still have some things to work on. So we shall see. But the best thing about what they got going this week and the fact that they've already played at St. John's and a neutral court game against UCLA is that they're going to have 4 games by the end of November, not just a non-conference play, but 4 games by the end of November that are outside of the pit against very, very quality teams that are all going to be NCAA tournament discussion, if not pretty much locks to be in the NCAA tournament. And you can argue that in the past couple of years, they had one each year, each offseason, and it was St. Mary's. So they really not only amped up their non-conference schedule, as we will see this week, but they did it early in the season, which was probably a little bit of overkill on Pitino's part. I think it's really, again, I'll use the word ambitious to schedule the way he has. The first month of the season in November to have 4 games away from the pit against, at the time, a ranked UCLA team, at the time, a ranked St. John's team, and then this week against Arizona State, USC/St. Mary's. Probably a little bit overdoing it, but you can't say the Lobos aren't scheduling up this year. They certainly are. So we'll see how that goes. Get to some of these questions and comments here. Jimmy H on YouTube is saying the Lobos need to win this tournament and it'll erase the St. John's loss. Sure. I'll say this: the St. John's loss, losing a true road game at St. John's, and Madison Square Garden is considered an at St. John's. It's not a neutral court game. Losing at St. John's is probably going to be the best loss of the year for the Lobos. I don't think anyone in the Mountain West is going to finish the year ranked higher, and it being a true road game, nothing about that St. John's loss is probably going to hurt the Lobos at all. So I don't know if you need to erase it. They lost an opportunity, and winning these 2 games would certainly hurt in that regard or help in that regard. But I'll tell you right now, USC probably won't be a quad 1 win, not where their numbers are right now. USC almost lost to Grambling the other night, the same Grambling team that the Lobos beat by 22 despite playing a really bad first half. So I'm going to pull up what the final score was against USC. Yeah, just on Sunday, USC pulled away late and ended up beating them by 11, 80-69, but that was a 2-point game with about 5 minutes to go, if I remember correctly, against Grambling State. So USC is not as good. It's not going to be a bad game by any stretch for the Lobos playing on a neutral court, but I don't know that their computer numbers are going to end up getting them a quad 1 victory, but quad 2 for sure. We got another comment here from Adam Lopez. How come Texas Southern had a technical coming out of halftime? I was curious. That's a good question, Adam, and one that literally on the drive home from the pit on Sunday night was mad that I didn't even ask about. I don't know what happened. I know it had to do with Johnny Jones, Texas Southern's coach, basically saying the magic word, saying something, but I don't know if it was on the way up to the ramp at halftime or the way back down, or if it was something that carried over from the first half. It had to do with Johnny Jones saying something to the officials, but I don't know exactly when or what transpired there. So we'll see. Richie Flores has a comment. This is when I was talking about the athletic director earlier. These coming years are bright. AF. I don't know what AF means as I am verbally talking here, but
you don't know what it
must mean Air Force.
Oh my God.
Richie is saying coming years are bright, Air Force. And Jimmy H on YouTube is agreeing with Richie about Air Force's bright future. So yes, the coming years for UNM athletics is bright. And I'll kind of leave it at that. Sean, do you have any questions about basketball that you want me to try and address? I know that in about a week, people are going to start getting excited again about Lobo basketball. They're already excited about it, but there is a conference game. They're going to 20 games this year. They actually have a conference game next week in San Jose State, who just beat UTEP last night. A UTEP team that the Lobos had a hard time with in an exhibition. So next week's actually the Lobos' first conference game, a rare early December Mountain West game, and then they won't have another conference game till the last weekend of December. But yeah, there's where we are for basketball.
Yeah, I'm hoping one of these years they're going to be able to slide into Maui and get you out there. I'm
telling you, man.
hoping that happens at some point. We desperately need that content.
Well, Richard Pitino just said earlier today on his Twitter. I'll read
Those
it here.
games literally made everybody's day. Memphis, UConn. I mean,
it was a tremendous.
Colorado was like kind of a sleeper game there, but I mean, like, Dayton, UNC was fun. Iowa State, Auburn was phenomenal. Fantastic. But
yeah, anybody who didn't watch the Maui Invitational yesterday, you missed out on some fantastic November basketball. Not just close games, but really high competitive games. Pitino tweeted earlier, everyone keeps telling us how football is king because of TV deals and realignment. I get it. Totally makes sense. With that being said, get that off the screen, sorry. With that being said, yesterday was a great reminder that college basketball is still and always will be amazing. That's a college basketball coach reminding people that he's also in a sport that deserves a little bit of attention, but he's not wrong, man. Yesterday was an amazing day of basketball. Anybody who watched certainly probably would agree. And I was able to see, this is what's funny about it, is I was able to see 3 of the 4 games yesterday, and I did not see any of the Michigan State games. So that's why I thought it was a really good day of basketball. I don't know who'd want to watch Michigan State basketball. I couldn't tell you.
Jace Richardson, be sure to look out. Making a lot of noise. Yeah, I had to settle myself down after the Memphis UConn game before going to practice. I had to like take a beat. Like, okay,
yeah,
we need to relax. But yeah, I think we have a comment from a familiar face.
Yeah, I'll get there in 2 comments from now. Eric Markham on YouTube is pointing out, I love the bench play this last game. I hope it trends. We talked about that with Pitino today at the press conference earlier today. It's a couple things about the bench play. First, it was tremendous. It wasn't a blowout. It wasn't in a situation where he could play everybody on the bench. But they didn't just kind of keep the lead. They actually stretched out the lead. Guys like Quentin Webb, Filip Borovichinin, who was a starter, Jovan Milicevic got off the bench. Guys that don't normally play, not only were playing, they were actually stretching the lead for the Lobos. So, yeah, it was very impressive. They were all checking boxes on what you wanted to see from those guys. So definitely no denying that the bench was impressive. I will add, though, that this is still in more competitive games and against better teams, probably going to be a 9-man rotation at best. Most teams cut down to 7 or 8. I think this will probably end up being an 8 or 9-man rotation most of the season. So you still won't see 3 of those guys. Daniel Thomas is a guy. There's 13 scholarship players for a men's basketball team. Daniel Thomas is the one scholarship player who has not played yet. He's a freshman. They have not said he's redshirting. He is suited up for every game. I think it's safe to say I will try and get an answer from Pitino or Daniel himself this week, but I think it's safe to say what's going on right now is he is planning to redshirt. He is suiting up for the in case of kind of scenario, right? In college basketball, you don't have I get to play 4 games and then decide to redshirt. It's sort of you can play less than half the season, and then if you have an injury, you can still apply for a medical redshirt, all that kind of stuff. But Daniel Thomas, I think this will be a 12-man scholarship roster. Of those 12 players, the guys that I just don't see playing on a regular basis are going to be Quentin Webb, Jovan Milicevic at this point, and probably Ibrahim Sacco, depending on matchups. But it maybe Filip Borovichinin kind of lost his spot when he lost his starting role. That came up today because Braden Applehans has been playing so good as the backup 3 now that, where's Philip's minutes going to come from? Just because he had a coming out party and 11 points in just like a 2-minute span, 2:46 span the other day, or 2-minute 16-second span. He scored 11 points and just looked unstoppable. Just because that happened in mop-up duty doesn't mean he just gets his old role back. So, and doesn't mean he takes Braden Applehan's minutes away either. So, yeah, it's a good problem to have if you're Pitino. The bench is looking good. The bench didn't look, frankly, all that good in the first couple weeks of the season. So we'll see what it looks like against quality competition this weekend. And I agree, I don't disagree with you, Jimmy H. Geoff needs to get out more. I don't even know what this is in reference to, but you're absolutely right. And then here we go. Sports editor Lucas Pierman, who is wanting to ask, what do you make of New Mexico State's relatively close loss to UNLV? 2 things is I'm not very high on UNLV, but I was impressed with NMSU for being able to do that on the road. I think UNLV is a team that probably should have. If you would have asked me before the game what the score would have been, I would have said UNLV probably should have won by 9-10 comfortable points, and it was not 9 or 10 comfortable points. That's for sure. I don't think that it looked at any point that New Mexico State was really going to pull off the upset, but they kept it pretty competitive till the very end. So I have been a little more impressed with New Mexico State than I thought, just because they have so many new faces in year 2 of Jason Hooten. But I won't say that's because of the UNLV game. I'm still not sold on UNLV. I thought what would be a 7-team Mountain West race is really looking a lot more like a 5-team Mountain West race, which cuts out the 2 teams I'm cutting out are Colorado State and UNLV from that equation at this point. We're only a month into the season, so a lot can change still, but I don't know how competitive with the top 5 teams UNLV and Colorado State will be. I don't think they'll be one of the bottom 4 teams either, those 2, but I think there's a clear kind of gap between the top 5. So we're clear, the top 5 being right now, in any order you want: New Mexico, Boise State, Nevada, San Diego State, and Utah State. After those 5, I think there's a little bit of a gap in the Mountain West. So I don't think UNLV's a great team, but I would say they're better than New Mexico State, and I would say New Mexico State impressed me more than UNLV did in that game.
Just box score watching on my end. Boise, I don't know if you watched. Boise had a little bit of a squeaker yesterday with South Dakota State.
Yeah, Boise has not overly impressed me. They got a good home win against a good Clemson team. Not a great Clemson team, not as good as last year, but they got a good home win there and blew out a couple teams. But yeah, they lost on the road to San Francisco. They barely beat Hampton yesterday. The tournament, the event they're in, frankly, isn't very good. And I'm a little surprised that Boise, whose non-conference play has not always it hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination. They don't have what they had last year, and that's unfortunate a little bit. I think that'll be fine. They're not going to have a horrible non-conference schedule, but that they don't have quite what they had in the past. I'm going to pull up. I forget who they play tomorrow in the championship of the Cayman Islands tournament. Boise tomorrow in the championship game plays. Guess that is today. I apologize. They're playing Boston
College.
Yeah, they're playing Boston College. I thought they played tomorrow. My bad. They're playing Boston College today at 5:30 in the championship game of the Cayman Island Classic. Boston College. I'll pull up their Ken Palm ranking right now. I don't know much about Boston College this year. They're not one of the favorites in the ACC, but
5-1.
Yeah, they're ranked 119 in the ACC. They're 5-1, and lost to VCU, who the Lobos play. They actually got blown out by 25 by VCU earlier this season. And other than that, their best win is against Temple, Jamal Mashburn's Temple. Jamal Mashburn, by the way, playing tremendous for Temple. Sorry if that offends some people. It did when I tweeted about it the other day. Some people don't want me to even mention that Jamal Mashburn Jr. is at a new school, scoring 20 points every game so far this season, but he is. Guess who else is at another school playing tremendously? JT Toppin. It's worth noting that the Lobos right now, if you look at who they could have on this year's roster and like who they actually have and are pretty happy with this team and could still be a very good team, they could have had JT Toppin as a sophomore on this year's roster. They could have had a guy who has not scored under 20 points in a game so far this year in Jamal Mashburn Jr., although that splitting was mutual. The team and Jamal both agreed on that. But they also, for one day, had John Tanji, who has been killing it for Wisconsin right now. He committed to UNM, and then a day later deleted the tweet and deleted the Instagram posts and didn't exactly answer the phone calls from UNM coaches when Wisconsin came in with a bigger NIL offer, and he ended up committing to Wisconsin 2 days after he committed to UNM. So that whole thing, if you think about those 3 names who are playing college basketball this year, who at some point in the offseason were, even if it was just a day or 2 after the last season, at some point last offseason, 3 names that are just killing it in college basketball right now were Lobos at some point. So kind of interesting to see how good things are going for UNM basketball, considering they like the team they have, and that's without 3 names that are killing it elsewhere. So, all right, Sean, anything else you want to wrap up or put a bow on for anything really UNM athletics related, football specifically?
No, nothing in particular. I think we covered a lot. I'll have a couple stories out this week, 2 features in particular that I'm really excited to share with you guys. Beyond that, regular preview stuff. And yeah, we'll be going through it. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to tweet them at us. And yeah, we'll go for it. We will not be doing a post-game show for football, correct?
I don't think so. I don't know. We'll touch base on Saturday.
Okay.
80-20, 90-10 maybe that we're not, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about it on Saturday. I mean, I'll be back home from the tournament by then. So but we'll see. We'll talk about it. It's going to be pretty late. One more quick one that came in from Adam. What rankings should I keep an eye on and or use? Seems last year the net was huge during the season. Turned out not to mean as much during the selection show. So I'm curious what to use. Good question, man. We all are. The net doesn't come out till later in December. But the net is still supposed to be the one that the committee really leans on because it has all the metrics that the committee is supposed to be evaluating, right? And what the net does is establish quad rankings. So if we're talking a quad 1 win or a quad 2 or a quad 3 or quad 4, quad 1 are the ones that count. Really, quad 2 are okay. 3 and 4 you don't care about unless it's a loss. The net still determines that. So I would say the net, when it does come out later this month or next month, is really the one to kind of keep an eye on. But as accurate as can be is also Bart Torvik and Ken Palm. I think those two are really good. Ken Palm's who I've been loyal to for my whole college basketball career anyway. So I think Ken Palm is sort of where to go. If you don't have a subscription to it, you can at least get his overall rankings for free. Just going to kenpalm.com. And you can see every team's ranking 1 through 364 there. As I wrote about in today's journal, it is interesting. As of right now, the Mountain West has the fastest playing team in the country out of 364 teams. It's the New Mexico Lobos. Are playing the fastest tempo in the country and the slowest in Air Force. Overall, the Mountain West has generally been a very slow conference. In fact, one of the bottom 3 out of 32 conferences. But as of right now, the New Mexico Lobos are the fastest playing team in the country, and number 2 is Fresno State. So there's a couple fast playing teams in the Mountain West, contrasting styles for sure. And Jimmy H has one other one. Any food updates? Let's sign off with that, Sean. Any food updates? Are we gonna be doing grapes here in the next couple of weeks? We're gonna have a Thanksgiving grape. You think?
Well, we made the decision. If they make a bowl game, I will eat a grape. If they win the bowl game, I will eat a blueberry. And maybe not just like one, probably a couple of each. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Beyond that, gosh, no real food updates. Been pretty normal. A lot of ground beef and rice and chicken and a couple salads, sandwiches. Yeah. If we get a bowl, yeah, Richie, I like that. It'll be named the Blueberry Bowl.
All right, can I tell you this? Since I'm going to the tournament this week, I'm not having traditional Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
My wife and kids are either going down to Cruces to see family or Alamogordo to see family. 2 different grandmas, one in Cruces, one in Alamogordo. They're going to go do that while I'm gone. I'll be in Palm Springs, and hopefully the Fairfield Inn's free breakfast will have, be a nice, good spread. But that said, I ate at Firehouse Subs yesterday, and they have a Thanksgiving sandwich, which is essentially, the good old leftover Thanksgiving sandwich. Had stuffing, some cranberry sauce, and some turkey on a sub, and makes a fat guy get fatter. And it was pretty damn good, man. I'll tell you, I had the preemptive Thanksgiving leftover sandwich from Firehouse Subs yesterday, and it was so good. Have you ever had cranberry sauce, Sean?
I have not. No, never had cranberry sauce. Never had it.
Have you ever had turkey? Let's just cover the bases here.
No,
man.
Look, I'm a big turkey guy. Every year we do this thing where people try to pretend that turkey's not a good bird, that's not good. It's a great bird. You just got to cook it right. Like, I mean, if people say it's too dry. I don't know. If you have those issues, I don't think you're cooking the turkey the right way. I don't think it's a good bird.
I'm pro turkey. Yeah.
Slather it in gravy, all that too. No, Thanksgiving's honestly, really, I mean, probably my favorite holiday overall. So
yeah, I love grapes and blueberry at Thanksgiving time. No cranberry sauce though. Huh? I've never been a big cranberry sauce guy. In fact, I'll tell you this: the only time I like cranberry sauce is on that leftover sandwich. When I have like leftovers with stuffing and some turkey. I like throwing that on I love leftover Thanksgiving sandwiches. So
I'm new to the whole game. Are you a green chili on like mashed potatoes kind of guy? Do you do that?
no, Richie covers it here. When it comes to Thanksgiving and mashed potatoes, you got to go red, man.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey with red chili is perfection. Smother the plate in red. You can just put red over all of it. I'm good with all that. I'm good without the red chili as well. I'm good with red chili smothering almost any meal.
Yeah.
In general, I know because it's a big meal and family get together time, people say, "Oh, red chili on Thanksgiving is great." To me, it's not any better on Thanksgiving than any other time. It's just good. I like red chili on just about anything. Um, so there we go. We had our little. I'll say this too. Patino was asked today, when you have these holiday tournaments, what do you guys do with the players? Is it just a bunch of team moms or player moms who are there on the trip too that maybe bring in turkey to the team hotel and you kind of do it that way? And he said, well, no, I mean, it depends. First of all, are we playing that day or not? This year they are. So he said he already told Peyton, who kind of runs everything behind the scenes, Peyton Stevens for the Lobos. He already told her, he's like, whatever team meal you get on Thursday, I don't want any turkey there. Turkey makes you sleep. We don't want to be sleepy. We are not doing a Thanksgiving meal on Thanksgiving this year because we play on Thanksgiving. Last year in Henderson, they played the 2 days before Thanksgiving, had Thanksgiving Day off, and then played the Friday after Thanksgiving, which a lot of tournaments tend to do. They go 2 on, 1 off, and then the third day is the championship round or just the third day of games. And so last year they did a lot of Thanksgiving kind of stuff, but it was on an off day. Didn't hurt them. They came back and destroyed a team, Pepperdine. I think it was their last game, beating by like 30 the day after Thanksgiving. But yeah, Patino was very, very clear. Thanksgiving's an important time to be with family and eat turkey and all that good stuff, but not if you have a game that day. There will be no turkey eating by the Lobo basketball team this year.
Maybe some grapes, blueberries, cranberry sauce, Greek yogurt, fig Newtons, and just kind of a smorgasbord of all that stuff. Sounds good.
Adam, thank you. Appreciate y'all's show. Definitely a part of my week I look forward to. If you ever need some to travel for Lobo games, sign me up. Keep up the good work. Adam, thank you for being on. Thank you all for being on and contributing as you always do. It's good enough for me. Sean, anything else you want to sign off with?
I'm all good, Geoff. I think we covered all the bases today.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a part of this show. Tune in on social media on Saturday to see if we're going to have a show. We may or may not. I don't know. And at this point, I do think I'm going to try a couple pregame shows basketball-wise from Palm Springs courtside. I've been having some microphone issues, but I actually think that's UNM related. I sit under a speaker in the pit that I think the background noise from that speaker is just killing me. I'm going to have to do those shows from a different location, and I don't think it's going to be that loud in a holiday tournament in Palm Springs, California this week. So we'll see how that goes. When we did the show with those microphones, Sean and I in the office, there were no problems with the microphones. So we shall see. Look forward to you just look on social media to see if I'm going to be doing those before the basketball games Thursday and Friday for Lobo basketball, and check out on social media on Saturday to see if we may or may not do a post-game show. Odds are we will not be. But either way, one way or the other, next week on Monday, we will, I think Monday, we will be doing a sort of maybe a football wrap-up or a football bowl potential sort of show. But we will be doing a show of some sort early next week. And there you are. Thank you all for watching. Sean, thanks for spending 90 minutes of your afternoon with me and with our faithful viewers.
Thank you for spending it with me, and thank you to everybody for producing our show, as always.
Thanks, guys.